What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video, a true hoot and a holler, if you will. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and also make sure you go follow me on Twitter, linked below, in order to get in on the grinder giveaway. We're picking the winners on the 21st, so you guys have about 5 days from right now to get on my Twitter and enter that giveaway. It's completely free to enter. All the rules are on there. Thank you guys in advance for following me on there, and also, real quick before we dive into the video, let's take a moment to talk about our friends at MyBookie. This video is brought to you guys by MyBookie. With the NFL season just getting started, there's never been a better time to head over to MyBookie and claim your first deposit bonus. By signing up using code GOBLIN, you can double your first deposit up to $1,000. So if you deposit $500, MyBookie will give you another $500 to bet with. Whether you're a veteran bettor or a first-timer, MyBookie gets you the most for your money with the double deposit bonus. Don't miss out on the action of the NFL season. Head over to MyBookie and sign up using code GOBLIN today. Your winning season begins today exclusively at MyBookie. Big shout out to MyBookie. Don't forget to use code GOBLIN. Now let's dive into the video. Now this took place back in 2017, and at this point in my life, I was still on probation. I was about halfway through it at this point, and I had just gotten started trying to do my community service. Now, some of you guys might remember a video I had made talking about how I finessed that community service, but this was before that point, before I realized that I was going to be able to do that. So I was still looking for ways to actually complete my hours legitimately, and one of the places that I volunteered at early on was a food bank, and that is where today's fine, fateful story takes place. Now, this place, the reason I chose to volunteer here is because A, you don't really do much of anything, and B, you can get a lot of hours in really quickly, no breaks in the middle. I showed up on this particular day for a 6-hour shift, so I showed up at 7 a.m. and I stayed all the way until 1 p.m. Now, the way this food bank worked was kind of interesting. We showed up at 7 a.m., but mainly just to set up like parking cones and direct people in the parking lot, right? The doors didn't actually open to this food bank until 9 a.m. So at 9 a.m., people would go inside, people who were going there to get food, and it was almost like a grocery store. They would get a cart, and they would go around in there and pick out items, put them in their cart, and then walk out with them. Now, where I came in, what I was volunteering for is, I don't remember the exact name of the position, but essentially my duty was when someone came out of the store, I loaded their cart into their car for them. Now, I didn't have to walk back out to their car or anything because there wasn't much parking here. They would park in the street, and then once they came out with their cart, they'd give it to someone like me, go get their car and pull it up, and then I would load it up and they dip, and I'd put the cart back. Pretty simple job, right? So I didn't really mind doing this very much, but also, it was a very long day, and it was very early in the morning, so I showed up prepared for this shift. Like I mentioned earlier, I had to be there at 7 in the morning, and I knew that sober me was not going to be able to do this at 7 in the morning. The problem I had is, obviously, I was on probation, so I was not smoking weed at this point. I was still kind of dangling in some other drugs. Is dangling the right word there? I don't know. I was messing with some other drugs, and one of the particular things that I was really heavy on during my probation was Xanax, because it got out of my system so quickly, and it was dirt cheap. So I decided that I was going to bring myself a few bars to this fateful community service day and get going. I pulled up at 7 a.m., and at this point, I still hadn't taken any of my bars yet, but I brought 3 of them with me. Now, I have no idea why I thought 3 ladders was an appropriate dose for my friendly community service at the food bank, but back then, you have to remember that I was a filthy, dirty tweaker, so that seemed like a fairly normal dose. I was like, yeah, dude, 6 milligrams of Xanax, very chill. Now, I didn't end up taking all of it. I didn't even need to, but we'll get to that part later in the story. I got to a point where I couldn't really function any further, but that's for later on. So I pull up at 7 in the morning and I hop out, and once you get there, you have to go in and check yourself in on the computer, and then you're ready to do your shift. So I go inside, I check myself in, and I come back out to the parking lot area where the other, what's the name of my position? The cart corrallers, I don't know, the cart gang, whatever you want to call call them. My other cart homies were waiting for me. So I get out there, everyone's chilling, getting ready for the day ahead. And, one of my favorite parts about doing this volunteering at this particular spot, is that these people did not give a fuck. I mean, even the staff there did not give a damn. I was like 17 years old at this point. Actually, I think I had just turned 18. Yeah, I had recently turned 18 at this point, so scratch the 17 part. But at this, they let you just go on smoke breaks no matter the age. I had watched high school kids ask to go smoke a cig, and they would just go to the side and spark that shit. No one would say a word, right? So as soon as I saw that, I had known, yo, this place is the spot. This was also not my very first time volunteering here. I had done this before for a different set of community service, but that was a year or two prior to this. So, I was a little rusty on the cart pushing, but either way, we had 2 hours early on in the shift to just chill out and do absolutely nothing after we set up the cones. Now, you might think that because we had 2 hours allocated just for setting up cones, we had a lot of cones to set up. That's not true at all. It was like maybe 10 cones, and only one of us would do it out of the 5 people there. So after whoever, got cursed to set up the cones went and set up the cones, they came back and we all basically just stood outside vaping and fucking around for 2 hours. Now, maybe 30 or 45 minutes went by and I was getting very bored, so I decided it was time to take my first dose. I went back over to my car after asking if I could have a smoke break, and I hop in the whip, pop open my glove box, and I pull out my Xans. Now, I figure that just one of them would be a great starter dose. No problem, nothing too unusual with that. At this point, I was using Xans, I wouldn't say daily, but, at least 2 or 3 times a week to get through my work shifts. This was around the same time when I had been selling bathtubs for that bathroom remodeling company, if you guys remember those videos. So Xanax was something that I was very familiar with, because standing at a mall kiosk bathtub for 8 hours cannot be done without a copious amount of Xanax. So I pop my first ladder, I chill in the car a little bit, rip the vape. These are the days when no one had disposables, okay? Everyone's walking around with a box mod, and I was one of those people, so I'm blowing clouds in my car. Xan just went down the hatch, tasted like shit, but in a very good way. So I hop back out of the car and go back to the parking lot and basically just twiddle my thumbs for a little while. Now, a little bit of time goes by and the bar definitely starts to hit me, but I had a bit of a tolerance at this point. So a 2 milligram ladder was not going to put me on my ass like it would nowadays. 2 milligrams back then was a pretty light, casual dose for me. Realistically, I needed to take 3 to really get anywhere at this point. So the 2 started to hit me a little bit, and I was feeling really relaxed, but still, even after that initial 2 milligram dose, I just didn't quite feel fucked up enough. I didn't want to just be a little bit barred out for this shift. You see, I slept like shit the night prior. I was already tired. It was too early for this shit. So I realized very quickly after the onset of that first bar that was not going to cut it for me. That was not going to do it whatsoever. So I go back to my car and I ask for another smoke break, and of course my request is granted, and I hop in the whip and I pop my second ladder. I didn't break it in half. I didn't break it in a quarter. My dumb ass thought that a second ladder was a very fair dose. Now at this point, by the time I went back to my car and popped it, it was getting pretty close to 9 o'clock. So this was realistically going to be my last chance to spend a little time chilling in my car. After this, it was going to get hectic because there is a lot of people that go to this food bank. Like I mentioned earlier, I had done this a few times before, and the first couple hours are usually pretty chill, but then once 9 o'clock hits, the next 2.5 hours are absolutely mental, and then it kind of quiets down again towards the end of the shift. So it's getting close to 9 o'clock. I just popped my second ladder. I hop out of the car, and I go back up by the front, in the parking lot area, and now I'm ready to rumble. Now, I make it sound like my car wasn't in the parking lot, and it kind of wasn't. You see, there was 2 separate parking lots here. There was one where, the actual staff of the facility would park, and then us peasant volunteers had to go park by the dumpsters on the other side of the building. So, I had to actually walk to my car and then back to the parking lot because my car was not really in the parking lot. But either way, I walk back up to the building, and now 9 o'clock hits and the games begin. People start entering the building and they're filling up their carts and doing their shopping, and for the first 30 minutes or so, no one really comes out, everyone's still in there grabbing their groceries. But After the first 30 minutes, people start coming out and I gotta get to work. They come out very, very quickly, rapid succession. You gotta be efficient. So you gotta grab the cart, tell that motherfucker sprint to his car, and you gotta load him up quick because you can't have too many cars up front there. You know, it gets clogged very quickly. So you gotta tell those motherfuckers to pull up quick so you can get the shit loaded quick. So the first couple people come out, I get my first cart, the person whose cart I got runs back to their car and pulls it up, and all is doing fine, you know? I'm feeling moderately barred out, but the second ladder definitely had not hit me yet whatsoever, you know? It had been maybe 30 or 40 minutes at this point, so it was taking a little longer than I expected to hit me, but either way, I get my first cart done, no problem whatsoever. Everything's completely smooth, I get them loaded up, they thank me and go about their day. Now, somewhere in between the first cart and my second cart is where this bar hit me. I don't really know what exact moment it hit me in, but I just remember after loading that cart into that car, I'm leaning up against the wall and I just start to feel really slow and heavy. I start to feel really fucking dumb. And I'm looking down at my limbs because I can't feel them almost. You know, like, yeah, I still have feeling in my body, but also at the same time, you know that kind of looseness that Xanax gives you? Where you almost forget things that are going on. You forget you have an arm. You look down at your hand and you're like, damn, I got one of those, bro. That's exactly how I was feeling. I'm looking down, I'm like, damn, bro. I don't feel anything, not even an itch, not even a scratch, not even a sore. I don't feel shit. I feel fantastic right now. Now, at first, it was just that kind of physical onset, you know? The mental aspect of that second bar hadn't quite hit me and turned me into a full-blown retard yet. So I'm still chilling out, just vibing, feeling a real nice body high. Now, once the second cart came out, everything fell apart. You see, this woman brings out a cart that is absolutely loaded, and I will never forget the look of horror on her face when I ruined half the shit in her cart. She brings out this cart that is loaded up with a lot of heavy shit. For some reason, she has gallons of milk that are in glass bottles. I don't know who the fuck supplied glass bottle gallons of milk to the food bank, but I don't even got the kind of money for that shit. So these people are living good. So she goes and gets her car and pulls it up. Now, I bring the cart up to the back of her car and I start unloading, and the first couple bags are chill. Now, I reach in there and I grab a bag that is very heavy, but I'm barred out of my mind and I don't really notice it. In particular, I don't notice the fact that the bag is not strong enough to hold what's inside of it. So I lift up this bag by the handles and I go to move it to her car, and out goes the bottom of the bag. Now, in this bag was a glass gallon of milk. For some reason, this woman had like 3 gallons of milk, dude. I don't know if there was no limits to the amount of shit you could get or like what the rules here were, but this woman got hooked up. She must have had an inside man here, okay? This was some sort of conspiracy, but either way, I lift up the bag, the bottom gives out. Now everything in the bag is on the ground fucked up. We've got a shattered jug of milk. And she's just kind of looking at me. And I'm sitting there and I apologize, but I know just by looking at her that she's not really taking my apology because she doesn't say anything. She doesn't say it's okay. And at this point, I realize I'm like, holy fuck, I'm barred out of my fucking mind right now. I like lifted up the bag and I barely even felt myself holding it, dude. The mental part of it still had not quite hit me yet. I was still kind of functioning well enough to do these simple tasks, but at the same time, I don't really know. Maybe the mental part did hit me and I was stupid because realistically, the only thing I had to do was put bags in the back of a car. So I feel like I could do that on a multitude of drugs, and one of those being Xanax. So I don't know. Maybe the mental part did hit me at this point, but either way, that's beyond the point. The point is, I just destroyed this woman's first bag of groceries, but I wasn't done yet, ladies and gents. No, I wasn't done yet. See, I apologized and I picked up what I could and put it back in the bag and loaded it in her car. Then I go back in the cart, and at this point, I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, let's just get this over with, get this woman out. So I'm trying to go faster. I grabbed 2 bags at once. I grabbed 2 more bags. Do not consider the weight whatsoever, and I fucking do it again. I did it again. Luckily, there was nothing glass in this bag, so nothing exactly broke, but, I mean, there was a lot of fruit that kind of rolled all over the parking lot, and that was fucked, so hopefully she washed that off when she got home, because I definitely just loaded that shit back in the bag and threw it in her whip. I mean, you have to remember, I was off the Xans. Honestly, if she wasn't even going to take that fruit off the ground, I probably would have taken that fruit off the ground for myself, dude. I mean, a nice little orange? Why not? Count me in, brother. But either way, I get her loaded up after destroying 2 of her bags of groceries, and I realize very quickly that I am barred the fuck out. I am so stupid at this point that I can't even put bags in the back of a car. So I asked to go on a cigarette break, and of course they say okay. They would never say no to a good cigarette break. I mean, sometimes when the employees went inside, these people would just chain smoke cigarettes out there. My fellow volunteers would. But either way, they approve my cigarette break, and I go back to my car, and I sit in there, and I'm like, yo, I just need to chill. I remember I turned my car on, and I cranked up the cold air, and I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to get myself to snap into it. And instead of snapping into anything or feeling better, I passed the fuck out. I mean, I blacked the fuck out. For I honestly don't know how long I blacked out. I couldn't tell you. Now, after some time had went by, I woke up a little bit later to a very rude awakening. An extremely aggressive bang on my car window. I guess someone actually noticed me vanishing for an extended period of time because I wake up to a very old elderly employee, not a volunteer, an employee, which made this kind of scarier, banging the shit out of my driver's side window. So I wake up and I roll down the window and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, are you okay? You know, he seems completely naive to the fact that I'm blasted out of my mind. So I'm like, oh, I'm really feeling sick right now. I think I need to lay down for a little bit. I play the classic. The first thing that came to my mind as soon as I woke up was just fucking lie. I didn't even have enough time to process this man's face. I didn't even know who was speaking to me. This could have been Jesus. The first thought that came to my mind, lie, deceive that man. So that's exactly what I did. I lied and I deceived him. And I just said I was feeling very ill and needed to lay down. And he just kind of fucked off. He was like, oh, okay, well, come back whenever you're ready. And I did not come back. I knocked the fuck out again. I slept off this Xan for God knows how long. Actually, I do know how long, so I don't know why I said that. I woke up much later in the afternoon. I'm talking like so late that my shift was over. I fell asleep at like maybe 10:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock, 10:30, and I woke up at like damn near 3 p.m. The fact that everyone just left me there was kind of fucked up, honestly. I mean, yeah, sure, I said I was sick and I told them to leave me alone, but also like, dog, I've been slumped in my car for 5 hours. I mean, does that not concern anyone at the facility? I don't know, but either way, I eventually wake up from my very aggressive Xan nap, and at that point, I'm feeling much better, so I just get the fuck out of there and go home. I didn't even remember to sign myself out of the computer system. I didn't even consider it. I was like, fuck that, we're just dipping. Now, later on into my probation, I ended up actually getting my community service finessed a little bit, but that was at a different volunteer place, not this particular food bank. So I didn't actually end up going back here after this incident, you know? I mean, in fact, I think this is the last time I've ever even driven past the damn place, dude. I mean, I have no other reason to be there besides, you know, my classic cart chronicles. But either way, I got home safely and all was well. Luckily, they didn't notice I was fucked up. I don't really know how. But, I mean, sorry to the woman whose groceries I destroyed. I hope your children are not hungry because of that. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, gamers.